Today, I'm talking to younger men about what women really want, or what they're asking of you. And it's not that you be in the top 20% of looks, power, or money. Yes, there might be women who are only after that, but it's probably more like 20%, or maybe even 10%. If you want to argue with me, don't speculate, get out your white coat and clipboard, and go and see. Be a scientist, interview 100 women, and then come back and tell me what you find. My bet is that it'll be closer to my number than yours, if you're believing the 80% nonsense. I'm Neil Beerbaum, and I provide a growth map for men, helping you to grow stronger and live deeper by standing on the 3 pillars of mindset, accountability, and purpose. In this video, I'll show you why the 80-20 principle is nonsense and what 80% of women really want. And you'll see that it's well within your power to attain those qualities. And I'll give you some tips on how to get started. First up, if you're buying into the 80-20 rule, you're disempowering yourself. You're being a victim. You're buying into something that A, is not proven, and B, sounds like the product of a late-night pity party. A is straightforward. You haven't gone out and asked women what they want. You've just assumed. B is more subtle. Being in victim mode or in a disempowered state is when you have an expectation about something. For example, more women should be dating more men, and that expectation isn't being met, and you're complaining about it. The definition of a complaint is that it's a problem statement and not a solution statement, and it's being made to someone else instead of addressing it with the person concerned. In this case, instead of getting out there and addressing it with individual women, the ones you're interested in, you're complaining to your mates or your online community and buying the story that they're telling you. Of course, the 80-20 thing sounds very mathematical and intellectual, but it's really just a complaint with nice wrapping. And complaining never leads to the desired outcome, because it doesn't address the issue with the person or people concerned. Complaining leads you on a path through frustration, to resignation, in other words, giving up. And I imagine that's where a lot of you guys are right now. Not because of what women are doing, but because of what you're not doing. So sit up, lean in, because I'm going to show you how to put yourself into an empowered state with regards to this issue. And it's something that is well within your power to do. There is something that 80% of women want, and it's not money, power, or looks. It's this: women want a partner and not a project, as this meme says. And what does that mean, to be a partner and not a project? Well, there's a joke that kind of sums it up. It goes like this: a woman's getting married, and she's worried that she won't remember what to do. The bridesmaid is tired of hearing this, so she says, a little impatiently, "Listen, you walk up the aisle, you stand at the altar, you sing the first hymn." So the bride creates this little mantra for herself. It goes, "I'll alter him, I'll alter him, I'll alter him." Of course, if you say that again and again, it starts to sound like, "I'll alter him." In other words, she'll do what many women have attempted to do, which is to change her man in some way, to civilize him, to make him more sensitive, more responsive. And few have succeeded. Instead, they've mostly ended up frustrated themselves, even exasperated. Okay, so if we were to be defensive as men, we'd say that we never asked to be a woman's project in the first place, or to carry their projection, so leave us alone. But while that's a worthwhile inquiry, it's a subject for another video. Today, I'm going to say something different. I'm going to say that women have always been the main civilizing influence on men. Think back to the Adam and Eve story. It was Eve who convinced Adam to take a bite of the apple. There's an old Yiddish saying that if a man is the head of the household, the woman is the neck. In other words, the woman knows that the man will act in whatever direction she points him in. So she does the pointing and lets him take the action, and also lets him take the credit. As an example, when I was growing up, my father didn't believe in upgrades, only replacements. In other words, he would only spend money on a replacement item that was absolutely broken and necessary. He'd refuse to spend if it was just something nicer or better that we could benefit from in some way. So let's say I wanted a pair of jeans or cricket batting gloves or something because the ones I had were getting small or worn or just old and out of date. And my mother could see how the new item might boost my confidence and make me happy, but these were internal things. My father only saw the external things. You have jeans, you have a pair of gloves. And so my mother would say, Just wait, I'll speak to Dad when the time is right. And then she'd say stuff to him, whatever it was, that would redirect his thinking. And in the end, he'd buy me the thing, and I'd thank him, and he'd feel like it was all his doing. So women have been doing this to men forever. And in that way, we have been their project. And we didn't even know it. That's how dumb we can be, guys, when it comes to the subtleties of relationship and the workings of our inner worlds. And maybe some part of it can be explained by this statement by John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And he said that men interpret language literally, while women interpret language by finding hidden meaning. I think a lot of us agree that men and women are different in these ways, like mansplaining that women complain about is very much because we are interpreting language literally rather than finding its hidden meaning. And that's what being a partner is about for women. It's about recognizing that deeper layer of what's going on, recognizing the hidden meaning, and not just the information in what's being said. It's about responding with empathy and not just rules. It's about not feeling threatened when we get challenged and then retreating into silence, into our caves, but being willing to converse about it. And it may come not naturally, but it's not something we're incapable of. Studies have shown that while women score higher in things like empathy, men sometimes score higher in emotional self-awareness. So it's not about the awareness being there, it's more about being proactively articulate about our inner worlds. Because women don't want a project anymore. They don't want to be doing the pointing or doing the work for us. They don't want to have to teach us stuff. They don't want to have to alter you or alter him. They don't want to have to roll their eyes at you when you stick to the rules no matter what, or when you start mansplaining. They want someone to match them. They want you to arrive as a fully formed adult male who knows what's really going on for you inside and is willing and able to articulate it. But not in a useless, crybaby, pseudo-intellectual kind of a way. In a sophisticated, self-contained, I know who I am kind of a way. So this, men, is the next step of your evolution, and it's being handed to you, once again, by women. You're being asked to take another bite of the apple. And if that first bite was about the knowledge of good and evil, this bite is about a deeper level of discernment. Because that first bite just didn't quite do it. It only gave us like 2 words, good and bad. And maybe then we've evolved to like 5, mad, bad, glad, sad, and maybe 1 optional word. And for many men, that's about the sum of their emotional vocabulary, at least what they are willing and able to converse, to speak. And here's one thing that the 80-20 rule does get right. The shift is about women's economic power. That does have a role to play, but not in the way that the 80-20 argument presents it. 80% of women are not going for the best looking and most wealthy. Women have had to put up with their futile projects because it was the best they could do. They didn't have the economic power. And men didn't have to respond for the same reason. So you could be a fat-ass, manipulative, even violent bastard, and women would have to put up with it. Today, that's less likely. Women simply don't have to put up with it. They have each other. Why should they talk to you when they can talk to each other and find other ways to pleasure themselves and have babies? And the fact that you say that it's about the 80-20 rule, about women chasing money and power, shows just how much you're missing the point. And it's only making women's case for ignoring you stronger. And the scary thing is, now that they're not pushing us, doing it for us, making us their project, now that we have nobody urging us in a direction, we might easily regress, which is what many young men seem to be doing, withdrawing into their caves, playing video games, instead of doing the work that's needed, which is the internal work. My wife is a psychologist, and that's a term she hears from women a lot. I wish he'd do the work, they say. And by that, they mean not the physical work, but the internal work. I've been in the personal development space, running workshops and coaching for like 20 years now. And the ratio of women developing themselves versus men is easily 70-30 or even 80-20, based on the audiences I've seen. If a woman runs a workshop for women, she might get 80 or 300 attendees on a weekend. If I do the same for men, I'll be lucky to get 8. Unless it's a religious gathering, men seem to flock to those. And a lot of men's programs are about inner discipline, inner strength, standing your ground. You can have all that, and you should, but you have to do this as well, what I'm talking about here. So to illustrate what's needed and what I mean by internal work, Let's recall that example I gave of my own father. What would be asked of him in this day and age? And that would be that he could take a step back, describe, using language, words, what is driving his behavior, evaluate its relevance, consider the impact, and make a more considered, more empathic, more conscious choice. And what would that look like for younger men today? Well, there are two things. The first is developing and using a broader emotional vocabulary. I'll do a separate video on this and add a link to this video when it's ready, so look out for that. The second is to shift out of your disempowered state of complaint, frustration, resignation, and get into the mode of investigating, communicating, trying, experimenting, adapting, improving. And by this I mean literally investigate. Go and ask women out. If they turn you down, ask them why. Or ask another woman if you can't ask the one who turned you down. Ask them what they want. Try not to be defensive and go into your shell. Find out what you're willing to take on. I mean, if they want you to pee sitting down, you can say no. But I'm sure there will be a lot of things you can say yes to. And instead of rejecting them for asking, let them be your guide, as women always have been for us men. Go away and investigate how you could achieve that. Watch more videos like this. Talk to a therapist or a coach. Try things. Get better. Get out there. Fail and try again. The difference is that you'll be taking a more proactive role. You'll be attempting to be a partner and not a project. And I promise you, you'll beat the odds. I promise you, you'll win. So if you're just starting out with me, I'm Neil Beerbaum, and I provide a growth map for men, helping you to grow stronger and live deeper by standing on the 3 pillars of mindset, accountability, and purpose. Check out some of my other videos and let me know in the comments what area of growth you're facing a challenge with right now that you'd like me to address. And remember, you're not just a man, you're a man growing stronger and living deeper.